We were told that love would complete us, but no one warned us how often it would deplete our souls. Love, in all its forms, is so heavily romanticized. We grow up thinking it's the finish line, that once we find it, everything will finally click. But what we're not told is that love can also drain us, distract us, and distort us. It can take more than it gives, and in this episode, I want to unpack that. What if the thing we think we need most isn't actually the thing that makes us whole? On this week's episode, what love takes from you, and why peace might be the better trade. A conversation about the emotional highs we've been taught to idolize, and whether they're actually making us whole or quietly wearing us down. From the fantasy of perfect love to the chase for constant happiness, we'll question what we've been told about fulfillment and explore why contentment, solitude, and peace might be the truths we've overlooked. Welcome to the DELCÂ Podcast, a diary on health, wellness, business, travel, and thought-provoking conversations. I'm your host, Cassandra DePeckel. This episode might challenge the way you think about love, relationships, happiness, and the life you've been conditioned to want. If you're ready to get honest about what actually brings peace in a chaotic world, you're in the right place. This isn't about detaching from emotion. It's about redefining what we give our energy to. Today, on the DELCÂ Podcast, what love takes from you, and why peace might be the better trade. I'm Cassandra DePeckel. Are you in love? Have you ever been? These are questions that sit at the root of how most of us measure meaning in our lives. Statistically, around 20% of people report never having been in love. That might sound surprising, but I believe it. I know people who have never had that kind of connection, and they're still whole, still breathing, still capable of purpose and joy. So it brings up a question we rarely ask aloud. Do we really need love to live a full, meaningful life? Or is that just the myth we're handed and never thought to challenge? There are so many versions of love. The love between parent and child, the love of close friends, the love we feel for animals, for nature, for a higher power, or even for the world itself. But still, love is framed as essential, the foundation, the finish line. We're told that love heals, that love completes us, that life without it is empty. Yet the older I get, the more I realize how much of that narrative might be a distraction. Love in its many forms is beautiful, but it's also unpredictable. It's often unstable. It requires energy, vulnerability, compromise, and sometimes self-abandonment. It can lift you.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to...
It's not about escaping others. It's about returning to myself, uninterrupted. And in that kind of quiet, I found something that love never gave me. A peace that stays, whether someone is holding my hand or not. Living without people, disappearing into the quiet for months at a time. That is the love I give to myself when no one else can understand it. For my 27th birthday, I went to Mongolia and stayed in a yurt in the middle of the wilderness where I didn't see another person for days. Aside from the woman who sourced local food and the man who milked cows at sunrise. It wasn't lonely, it was peaceful, it was sacred, and it was mine. It reminded me that solitude isn't the opposite of love. It's where love for the self deepens. It's where peace becomes real. That said, while I believe love may not be essential in all its forms, there is one version I do think matters deeply. The love of a parent. And if that kind of love is unavailable, whether through absence, instability, or harm, then the love a child learns to give themselves in its place becomes just as important. A child's early experience of love forms the blueprint for how they relate to others and, more importantly, to themselves. If they are never shown love, they may spend a lifetime searching for it in places that offer only confusion or pain. If they are taught that love must be earned or chased, they may associate it with suffering. But if they are shown unconditional love, or if they are taught how to create it within, they grow up with an inner compass. One that teaches them how to love others with care, how to recognize what is real, and how to come home to themselves when no one else can. I've seen all sides of this. People who have had little love growing up and now search desperately for it. People who have had too much and still feel empty. There's no formula. There are people who grow up in warmth and turn cold, and others who are neglected and become kind. I'm not here to generalize. I can only speak from my experience. And my experience tells me that while love is beautiful, it's not essential. Not in the way we were told it would be. I think I've discovered something that most people avoid admitting. You can live a deeply fulfilling, emotionally rich life without being in love. You can choose peace over passion. You can let solitude strengthen you rather than letting loneliness consume you. You don't have to be chasing love to be whole. You can stop running. In our last episode, we talked about death, the one inevitable moment we all face. And here's the truth. No matter how much love you've experienced, no matter who is in the room with you, you will take your last breath alone. Even if you have the luxury of knowing when it will happen, even if someone you love is holding your hand, it will still be your body, your breath, your mind, your release. If you don't have that luxury, chances are you'll be alone anyway, and that terrifies people. Most people are afraid of dying alone. It's one of the deepest fears we carry, and it clouds our judgment. We chase love not just for joy, but because we think it'll protect us from that final moment of isolation. But maybe it's time to reframe that. Maybe the real peace comes from not needing anyone else to hold that moment with you. If you can find love and acceptance within yourself, you won't need someone else to validate your life as it ends. And if you don't need it at death, maybe you don't need it in life either. I know that's not an easy concept. And yes, it might sound cynical to someone listening without the inner context of what this actually means. I know how deeply we crave connection. I know how natural it is to want someone to witness our pain, our joy, and our growth. But the practice of non-attachment, of loving without clinging, of existing without needing, and of learning how to let go is what allows us to taste real freedom. You don't need to be loved by others to be complete. You need to be loved by you. So in this episode, I want to explore what it means to let go of the idea that love is the end goal. I want to look at the cost of obsession, the pressure to find your person, and why so many of us are left wondering if love is even worth the weight it carries. This isn't about cynicism, it's about clarity. I'm Cassandra DePecco, and you're listening to the DELCÂ Podcast. Finding the right people to connect with to grow your business doesn't have to be a burden. We make it easy through DELCÂ. DELCÂ is a premier lifestyle brand catering to empowered individuals. With a focus on elevating every aspect of our members' lives, we offer elite memberships, advice through our newsletter and blog, transformative retreats, travel itineraries, and exclusive member privileges. Whether you're seeking personalized guidance, connection with other like-minded individuals, or unforgettable experiences, DELCÂ is here to help you unlock your full potential and live your best life. Visit DELCALife.com. That's DELCALIFE.com to elevate and expand your connections for both business and friendship. Mention that you heard about us on this podcast and receive a 5% discount on newly launching boutique items and priority application review for our DELCA membership. The DELCA experience. It's a lifestyle. Do you remember that young kind of love? The one that felt light and honest, before the world told us what love was supposed to look like? Maybe it was a crush on a classmate in elementary school, or maybe it was your first real relationship in high school. Back when we believed we'd marry that person, back when we thought forever could fit inside a hallway kiss or a note passed in class. I remember my first love clearly. We had no expectations, no baggage, no fears about our future. We were infatuated, innocent, and completely lost in the moment. Doesn't that sound nice? It didn't matter if the love was healthy or sustainable. We didn't care. We just felt, and we followed that feeling. Now, at 35, I've come to realize that kind of love is something I'll never feel again. And I'm okay with that. It belongs in the archives of youth. It served its purpose, and it was never meant to last. Back then, as kids, we didn't need to think about whether the guy had money or if he was successful. He was still in school. We didn't care if he was tall enough, if he had kids, if he had been divorced, or if he was religious. He was still figuring out who he was. We all were. But adulthood changes the stakes. As we age, love becomes more complicated, more performative, and far less forgiving. We're expected to have our lives together, to carry wisdom, healing, growth, stability. By the time you're in your 30s and beyond, you've likely faced your own traumas or heartbreaks, and so has the person you're trying to love. So yes, it's harder to find that same weightless love, because the older we get, the more we realize that love, while powerful, is not enough. We used to be able to settle for innocence. Now we require discernment. Love is no longer just about butterflies or connection. It's about compatibility, safety, shared values, security. It's about how someone fits into your quality of life and how they affect your peace. In this world, especially now, love needs to come with protection, provision, and presence. It needs to feel like a partnership, not just a passion. Because without those things, love becomes fragile, and fragile things break. I've known people who married for love and others who married for money, both men and women. And I'm not here to judge either choice. I've seen the romantic ones who end up feeling empty, unsupported, and alone. I've seen the transactional ones who gain comfort and structure but still carry a kind of quiet, aching loneliness. So if I'm being honest, I want neither. In both situations, someone is giving away a part of themselves, their time, their energy, their emotional bandwidth, their softness, their light. It doesn't matter if it's in the name of love or stability, something gets handed over. And for many, that creates a hollow space inside that never quite fills again. We often forget that being with someone, no matter how perfect it looks from the outside, doesn't shield you from feeling alone. Love, especially the kind we chase for highs, can create emotional whiplash. It brings euphoric joy, but it also creates deep crashes. Because every high must eventually fall. Every new spark becomes a routine. Every promise of forever gets tested by reality. We talk about love like it's permanent, but so much of it isn't. It evolves, it shifts, or it fades. And if we build our emotional well-being on the peak of it, we forget to prepare for the descent. That crash. The one that comes after the rush is what catches most people off guard. And the truth is, it's not just romantic. The same applies to happiness, passion, desire, and even hope. What goes up must come down. That's the nature of emotion. That is the reality of being human. So if the goal is to stay in those highs forever, we're setting ourselves up to suffer. But if we can learn to build our lives around balance, around peace instead of intensity, then the crash doesn't feel like a failure. It just feels like part of the rhythm. And maybe that's why so many of us are tired, not just from heartbreak, but from the emotional highs we keep chasing, the spark, the passion, the thrill of being chosen, the game of femininity versus masculinity, when shouldn't it just be natural selection? We've built our lives around fleeting feelings, hoping they'll turn into something permanent, but they never do. Coming up after the break, I want to explore something even more subtle, but just as powerful. The difference between happiness and peace, and why choosing the quieter path might be the thing that finally sets us free. I'm Cassandra DePeckel, and you're listening to the DELCÂ Podcast. Dying to get your business up and running, but don't know where to begin? Are you sick of the extensive fees it'll take for web development, PR, marketing campaigns, and hiring people to get you there? Maybe you need Elevated. Elevated is a full-service brand agency that will get your business up and running fast and at a low cost, without sacrificing the quality and efficiency of your business. Visit elevated.com, that's ELEVATXD.com, and get a free website and business roadmap when you sign up for one of our monthly plans. Don't worry, we've got you covered with up to 50 brand development services, including branding, design, marketing, social media management, content creation, web development, strategy consulting, financial and sponsorship decks, and so much more. Get your business launched fast, at low cost, and without sacrificing the quality and luxury you deserve. Visit elevated.com. Again, that's elevatxd.com, and claim your free website and business roadmap. Again, that's elevatxd.com. Elevate your business with Elevated. There's this question people love to ask. Are you happy? As if happiness is a box to check or a destination you eventually arrive at and get to stay in forever. But the more I live, the more I think that question is misleading. Because happiness, by definition, is just a temporary emotional spike. It's real, yes, and it's beautiful when it happens, but it isn't sustainable. Peace is. For clarity, I'm spiritual in my own way, but I don't commit to any one religion or faith. Still, when it comes to the topic of happiness versus peace, I tend to resonate with Buddhist philosophy. Buddhism teaches that clinging to pleasure or to moments of happiness only creates suffering. What actually frees us is contentment, a quiet, grounded sense of enough. Not the thrill, not the high, not the euphoric feeling that something amazing just happened, but the deep exhale that says, even in this ordinary moment, even in this silence, I'm okay. I've had moments where I've felt happy. I've also had long seasons where I've felt at peace. And I will always choose peace. Happiness asks for momentum, whereas peace asks for stillness. Happiness demands more, but peace accepts what is. So when you chase happiness, it often runs. But when you settle into contentment, peace has a way of staying. I used to feel like something was wrong with me when people asked if I was happy and I couldn't fully say yes. I thought that meant I was broken. But as I've gotten older, I've come to understand that it just means I'm content. I find sparks of joy, yes. I achieve, I travel, I try to grow, but I'm not on a constant high, and I don't think we're meant to be. I'm content with the life I've cultivated on my own terms. I'm content that I'm not suffering in the ways that so many people are. I have pain, but I don't resent it. I think setbacks are part of the rhythm that lets us feel balance. Without difficulty, how would we recognize ease? I'm content with my health, but I'm not in perfect condition. But I'm not dying either. There's room for improvement, which gives me something to work toward. And at the same time, I'm aging. That's just how it goes. There's a psychologist named Dr. Robert Puff who talks about this difference in a way I think more people need to hear. He says, quote unquote, when we chase happiness, we're chasing something outside of ourselves. But when we pursue peace, we're nurturing something within. He explains that the happiest people aren't the ones always in a good mood, but the ones who know how to sit with what is. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They think happiness is the goal, that if they're not happy, something must be wrong. But what if being content, being calm, being whole is actually the most powerful state we can reach? So after everything we've unpacked in this episode, here's what it really comes down to. What are you building your life around? What are you actually chasing? Is it the intensity of love, the feeling of being seen, of being chosen? Is it the illusion of permanent happiness? Or is it something quieter, something more stable? These aren't questions with easy answers, but we rarely stop long enough to ask them at all. Esther Perel, who has spent decades studying modern relationships, says, quote unquote, today we turn to one person to give us what once an entire village used to provide. A partner has to be our greatest confidant, our best friend, our passionate lover, our intellectual equal, our therapist, our financial ally, our co-parent, and our soulmate, end quote. The pressure is unrealistic, and yet most people feel like they're failing if they don't have it. And if they do have it, they often feel suffocated by it. That's the paradox. Love, as we've constructed it in this culture, often becomes an impossible assignment. Alan de Botton, author of The Course of Love, challenges the idea that love is about always being in sync or fulfilled. He says, quote unquote, compatibility is an achievement, not a precondition, end quote. He describes love not as finding someone who meets your checklist, but as the willingness to learn and teach each other how to be loved. That is not romantic, that is work. And it takes a level of emotional maturity most of us don't develop until after we've already ruined a few things. If you want, you can head back to episode 1 of this season where I talk about emotional intelligence, agility, and literacy for a little bit of back education on that. So what happens when we stop chasing love as a form of emotional rescue? What happens when we realize that freedom and peace might be more honest foundations for life? Arthur Brooks, a Harvard professor who teaches a course on happiness, writes in From Strength to Strength that lasting satisfaction comes not from achievement or emotional highs, but from what he calls, quote unquote, a deep well of calm. He says, quote unquote, the happiest people don't feel great all the time. What they have is emotional security. They know who they are, and they're at peace with the ordinary, end quote. That last line hit me. Peace with the ordinary. Not chasing the next thing, not trying to recreate the thrill, but standing still and knowing you're enough. I used to think choosing peace meant giving up, that it meant settling, that it meant I was opting out of the full range of life. I don't feel that way anymore. Now I see peace as the strongest decision you can make. It's not the absence of emotion, it's the presence of discernment. It's knowing what costs too much. It's saying no to chaos when you know your body can't take another storm. We live in a world that rewards intensity, big love, big ambition, big goals. But nobody gives you a trophy for being calm, for being content, for choosing the life that makes the most sense for your nervous system, not your ego. And maybe that's why so many people feel lost. They're chasing a version of fulfillment that was never designed to last. So what does this mean for you? Maybe you're someone who truly wants the experience of deep, consuming love. Maybe that love is already in your life, or maybe it's never been. Maybe you're someone who keeps coming back to yourself and wondering why it's not enough. Either way, the point isn't to choose one path over another. The point is to choose consciously, with eyes wide open. Ask yourself, would I trade consistent peace for occasional passion? Would I give up self-trust for the thrill of being needed? Am I seeking a partner because I truly want connection or because I want someone to help carry my existence? In today's episode, we explored the emotional weight of love, the illusion of permanence and happiness, and the growing importance of peace and solitude. From early love to adult expectation, from emotional highs to steady inner calm, we asked what it really means to live well. And maybe that answer looks different than the one we were taught. So here's something I've come to believe. You can have love and still choose yourself. You can feel joy and still prefer calm. You can say no to intensity and still live deeply. You do not have to suffer for your life to have meaning. You just have to be awake for it. If today's episode shifted something in you, I encourage you to sit with that feeling. Write about it. Ask yourself what peace looks like in your day-to-day life. What love means to you outside of partnership. What success would look like if it didn't depend on applause. For further reflection, I recommend The Course of Love by Alan de Botton, Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel, or From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks. Each of these offers a different lens through which we see love, meaning, and the emotional architecture of a fulfilling life. Thank you so much for listening. If you have a topic you'd like me to speak on, a person you think I should interview on the show, or a story you want to share, feel free to email us at hello@delcalife.com. That's hello@DELCALIFE.com. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at DELCA Life. All information shared on the DELCA podcast is based on opinion and personal or cited perspectives. Until next time.